Hi there. Welcome to Little Big Knits. This is episode number 2. And my name is Selma. I'm also known as Selma Knits on Ravelry and Instagram, where you can find me. And this is a podcast about knitting primarily and any other crafty goodness I happen to get myself into. Although I have to say right now I am spending a lot of time knitting. So the time that I have anyway. And so yes, this is episode number 2. I came back. Hello everybody. And thank you so much for all the encouragement and support after my last podcast. I really talk about the warm and fuzzies. I really appreciate it a lot. It warmed my heart and actually proved once more to me what an amazing community this is. That people are so forthcoming with encouragement and support. It's just amazing. So it's a very inspiring community to be part of. I'm glad we're all part of it together. So anyway, here we are, and this is July 3rd. So happy July 4th to those who are celebrating tomorrow. And happy 150th to Canada. We just celebrated our 150th Canada Day on Saturday, and it was unfortunately really wet and rainy. It was really crappy weather. In fact, today is the first decent day we've had in what feels like forever. It's been an incredibly rainy couple of weeks. So anyway, we are in Canada. I'm coming to you from Ottawa in Canada, by the way. And so I'm in the capital region, which had a huge celebration on Saturday, even in the rain. I think they were expecting about 500,000 people. I don't know how many people actually showed up. And I did get out for the fireworks because the rain finally stopped at around 10 o'clock at night, or 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I was able to get out. It was lovely. So anyway, we are 150 years young, which is very young compared to some other places. There are cities here that are older, but Canada as a country is 150 years old. So anyway, yeah, okay, so just a little piece of information before I actually get into my knitting stuff. Since the last episode, I have started a Ravelry group. So if you want to come and join, come along. People were able to find it anyway. I think Sue, Crafty Knitter 7 of the Two Tangled Skeins, went and invited some people for me as well. But if you want to come and join in, it's called Little Big Knits, and feel free to introduce yourself in the group, and I'll be posting episodes in there. So you should be able to find this episode there if you didn't find it on YouTube, and my last one as well. And I'm going to start a thread also for questions and comments in case, you have some about knitting, about the podcast, about me personally, as long as obviously it's in an appropriate realm of things. So yeah, that's that. It's very exciting. And thanks again to Sue, because she helped me a lot with getting the group going, the banner and all that kind of stuff. It's got its challenges, but yeah, so there we go. Very exciting. So what have I been working on for the last couple of weeks, I wonder? There is an elephant in the room. The last time I podcasted, I had just started this. I had talked to you about this test knit that I was doing for, for Marcia Ibuki, who is also known as Fairy Little on social media, on Ravelry and Instagram, and she designs shawls. She's also Canadian, living out west in BC, and she had asked if I would test knit for her this shawl, and I did, and I have to say I am so happy with the result of this shawl. I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing into the screen, but there you have it. I always wonder if you can hear as well from behind the shawl or not. but it's got different sections with different things going on. It's since I test knitted, it has been released, so you can get the shawl if you want to. And so there's a section of lace there. There's some garter ridge sections, and then there are two different kinds of lace sections towards the end, finishing off with a picot bind off. And it's a beautiful size, actually. I'm very, very happy with the size of this shawl because it really wraps around very beautifully and just kind of goes whoop. And it falls nicely, not too far, but in a very elegant way. It turned out just really beautifully. Marcia, congratulations for a beautiful design. It was a lot of fun to knit because there was a different thing going on all the time. You know, the first section there was some striping, and then there was some lace, and then there were some garter ridges, and then there was some lace again, and then another kind of lace, and then the picot bind off, which I think is very effective in this shawl. I really, really like it a lot. Just beautiful. I'm really, really, really pleased with it, and the colors worked out really nicely. I find it very sort of cohesive, and all the yarns I used were just beautiful, honestly. I used Plucky Knitter. Here's the label. This was their Plucky Feet, which is a 90 merino 10 nylon, and this is the P's and Q's colorway, and that's this purple sort of mauvey color, kind of a bit of a, you know, a dusty purple that I used. The beige was Artie Yarns Merino Cloud. I have a feeling there's a mistake in my project page, actually. But this is what I used, because I think it says, I have to go and check actually, but I used Artie Yarns Merino Cloud, which is a fingering weight, and it's an MCN, and that was this kind of taupey beigey color that I have here, and the color is 249. And then the last one, which is this speckled goodness here, I mean, look at that, beautiful, is I'm noticing my head's getting cut off, sorry guys, is hedgehog fibers in their sock yarn. They just call it their sock yarn. And that's it there. And this is the Urchin colorway. And honestly, it's like, it's just so beautifully speckled. It's got pinks and purples, and although up close the pinks look actually quite hot pink-like at times, the effect is very subtle. And I think it worked out in the lace really, really nicely. And although this looks like very complicated lace, it really was not. I can't remember now how many rows the repeat was, but I think it was 8, if I remember correctly. This was also very simple lace, and this one here, although it looks lacy, very lacy, was barely a lace, really. It was just really, really fun to knit. So there you go. That is done. I'm going to take it off because it's actually quite warm today. I'll just show you how much yarn was left over from each skein. This is how much was left over from the hedgehog fibers. About 20 grams, I think. And the Plucky Knitter, there was a little less. Now in the Plucky Knitter, sorry, Plucky Knitter, there was 425 yards, and there's what's that? Maybe 15 grams left. And from the taupey color of the Artie yarns, there was a little bit more, but again, probably like 25, maybe 30 grams left, maybe. I think more in the 25 range. So you use up almost 3 full skeins, and now I've got some left for my scrappy blanket and to give as well to others. Yeah, it uses up almost 3 entire skeins. So there is, you know, a good, 1,000 yards knit into this, which is what makes it a really good size. And But what I like the most about it is actually the shape. It's just a really good shape for draping, very much. Or for wearing if you like to wear in the bandana style of things, right? Some people like to do this type of thing. I actually foresee myself wearing this, and it goes down a little bit, more in the other style, just because it just suits it perfectly. So there you go. So that is my 1FO since the last time I talked to you guys, which was a good 3 weeks ago, I think. It's been a busy time. June is always a little bit crazy around here. It's the end of the school year. It's the beginning of summer activities such as soccer, which my son is in. There are 2 birthdays, my son's birthday and my birthday, which was just the other day. And what else? There's just so much going on all the time in June that actually my birthday, which is at the end of the month, I'm usually like, can we celebrate it in July? So I actually celebrated my birthday last night with some friends. And so I don't think I got as much knitting done as I would have, but I certainly raced through the Sorrento shawl because I wanted to get it done. We had a deadline and I wanted to be able to make sure that I caught anything. There wasn't a whole lot to catch, to be honest. It was a very nicely written pattern. So what am I working on? I'm a little bit disappointed, partly just because I had to focus so much on the Sorrento shawl. I didn't get as far in my Paloma sweater as I had hoped. Now the Paloma sweater, I'm actually wearing, let me just adjust myself. I am wearing my original one. I'll just stand up so you can see. It's a little bit of a loose fit. This was one that I made 4 years ago out of, I think, Katia bamboo. It was a bamboo cotton blend. It's from the Whisper book by Kim Hargreaves, a design by her. And I wanted to make a second one, which I talked to you guys about last time. Here is the original sweater. So as you can see, I made mine a little bit narrower. It still is slightly wider than my bra straps. But I just really enjoyed this. So I started knitting another one, which I showed you guys last time. I'm just realizing I completely forgot to welcome you guys. Welcome. Welcome if you're new. You've only got one other episode if you happen to want to catch up on what I was talking about last time, but this is a bit of a repetition anyway. So I really was able to finish the torsos, or the torso rather. I think I only have one. And so I am at this stage. So it's going to be like that. Now this one I've come to realize is not going to be as wide and as loose as this one is. It's going to be a snugger fit. I think that's partly out of a slight miscalculation on my part, but also because I was a little bit worried about playing yarn chicken with this yarn, because I don't have, like, I'm gonna have, well, I thought I might have not quite enough and that I could just, you know, play with the sleeves. But I think I will have enough. So it's going to be essentially a green version, and it's going to be a slightly less loose green version. So this has been a little bit in the naughty corner, I have to be honest, for the last couple of weeks, partly because of the issues that I'm having with it, and partly because of another cast on that happened, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But what happened was, and I don't know why, I got to the top here, to the shoulders, and I've got the neckline sleeves all on, you know, some extra needles, and I sewed the two shoulder seams together, and it just looked terrible. I just don't know why. It just looked awful. And so I did it twice, and both times I was just not happy with it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put this aside for a few days. Now, when I put this one on today, thinking that I would, wear it for the podcast, I thought, let me look at the seams, because I had wanted to do that anyway. And the seam is quite nice. And yet on this one, it just looked horrible. So I thought, what am I doing wrong? I took out my knitting books. I've got a Vogue knitting book and the Knowledgeable Knitter as well, to see, and I was doing it right, but it just for some reason looked awful. So I'm going to try one more time. You see, partly the thing is that it's not a straight edge, because you are casting off so that you end up with a little bit of a slope when it's sewn together, right? And you have to, when you're sewing together, you have to deal with these little steps when you're putting the two sides together, and the same thing is on the other side, and so you're sewing them together. And for some reason, those steps are just ending up really, really unattractive, whereas here, you can slightly notice them, but it's not terrible. So I'm going to try one more time, and if it doesn't work, I think I'm going to rip out the 4 shoulders and do a short row shaping instead, because that's essentially what the casting off in steps is doing. It's creating shaping, and short row shaping does the same thing. So if I decide to do that, then I'll do a little bit of short row shaping and do a 3 needle bind off. So I'll tell you guys about that next time. But even though it's going to be a slightly snugger sweater, I think I'm going to really like it. And hey, there might even be a number 3 coming along at some point, because it's just a very simple but effective pattern. Right now, I'm finding that the slip stitch rows are puckering a bit, but I think once it's been blocked, they're just going to stretch out like that. And on here, as you can see, it's kind of a subtle feature of the sweater. So there you go. So that's my next whip, which I've been housing in this sort of vintage bag that my mother made years and years ago, out of Finnish fabric called marimekko, old marimekko, sort of thick cotton fabric. So I've been holding it in that. I'm just going to take a sip of tea. Ooh, out of my new mug. Look at this. My friend Sue of the Two Tangled Skeins, Crafty Knitter Sue, thank you Sue, got me this mug. She actually had, I think Jen Stormcoast, who's got her podcast called The Uncreative Crafter, I think she brought them up for Sue, and Sue brought up a few and gave them to people. So I love it, and it's gray, and I happen to love gray. So, and I am once again drinking my Ahmed black cardamom tea in there, thanks to Lynn. All right, so my next whip. My next whip is a test knit for Kristen Lehrer, who is Woolenbein on social media and has the Yarngasm podcast and has the Woolenbein yarns. And she asked me if I would test her new shawl called Oracle. And you may have seen it if you follow her on Instagram. It's a circular shawl. And I think she's hoping to release it sometime, perhaps in August. I'm not 100% sure. And so she asked me to test knit it, and quite frankly, it was an offer I could not refuse. What an honor, first of all. It was an honor to test knit for Marcia as well. And the shawl is just so gorgeous. Kristen's designs are fantastic. She doesn't have many, and I think she's got the design bug and said she wants to design some more. But she designed a shawl a year ago, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I can't even remember now, called the Wildesmeer. And I test knit that for her. And it was a fabulous shawl to knit. It looks complicated, but it really wasn't. And I think that that is something that Kristen is very good at. She creates shawls that are very dramatic, are very beautiful, look complicated, but are not necessarily. And this shawl is exactly the same. This one does have some techniques that are a little bit more complicated. She has said that this is an intermediate advanced pattern. I definitely wouldn't take this on unless you've made unless you've done lace before, but because it's so dark here, it's hard to see. But the lace is far more complicated looking than it actually is. It's not complicated. And then there's brioche. So if you've knit something like the Exploration Station or anything with some simple lace, you can do this for sure. She's got tutorial links in her pattern as well that you can learn about. It's got a very interesting cast on. It was new to me, a circular cast on that was very interesting. Knitting brioche in the round was new for me. I had only knit from my Exploration Station. I had only knit it back and forth, so that was cool. I learned how to purl in brioche, and quite frankly, it was very easy. Yeah, so I'm test knitting that right now. I actually need to put it onto bigger needles, but I seem to have misplaced I bought some extra long 4mm needles when I was knitting Marsha's shawl and didn't end up using. I just had all the needles, all the stitches scrunched up, but I've since put those long 4mm needles somewhere, and I can't find them, but I will, because this shawl is going to have probably over 1,000 stitches on it at some point, whereas Marsha's shawl had, I don't know, maybe it was close to 400, 500 or something like that. Not that many, but I'm going to, and I made it all on these needles. So this is going to need to be on a bigger needle for sure. So hopefully I'll find that in the next couple of days. I'm sure I put them in a logical place, right? Somewhere. Anyway, I'll find them. So I am using 3 yarns, and I almost feel like I need to call this shawl the gift, because the yarns that I'm using in this are entirely gifts from people, and from 2 individuals. One of them is a hand-dyed yarn, this one here, which I used in the center of the shawl. It is hand-dyed by Jessica, who also known as Sarah Nova Crafts, on Instagram. I think on Ravelry she's just Sarah Nova, but she dyed this with a friend as she was doing some dyeing, and gave it to me. And I just loved the color, and so I was waiting for the perfect opportunity for it. The other 2 colors, the dark blue and the kind of gray mauve, I have to be honest, I was a little bit, when I started doing this brioche, I was like, is this the right color for this? But I decided to go with it because I think that it seemed, I don't know, I can't even tell you what it is that I was kind of wondering about, but I've decided to just go for it anyway. I'm just wondering how well the gray mauve and this sort of more pinky, I don't know what you'd call that, pinky purpley color. I'm just not 100% sure how well they go together, but I think in the grand scheme of the whole shawl, I think it's going to be great. So these 2 yarns, there is the dark one, and as you can see, I've used a bit more of the dark one at this point, and there are little flecks throughout it that come across as a little bit kind of peachy. And then this one, which is sort of a light mauvey gray color. Just beautiful. These 2 were gifted to me by my friend Kate, who is Kate Hawthorne Crafts. She also has a podcast, actually. And she gave these to me when I was in Edinburgh in March. And it is a 50-50 superwash merino wool and silk base by Ellie and Ada. The dark blue is called Calligraphy Ink, and the lighter one is called Hydrangea, which is actually a very apt name for it. It's a great for a hydrangea, and it's just stunning to work with. I'm not sure I've ever worked with a 50-50 merino silk blend. It's very luscious to work with. And then this one is a 100% merino base, so a little bit of a different texture, but once you mix everything together, it works out fine. So that is the trio. Now this shawl apparently is going to use the entirety of the skeins, so I'm hoping that I will have enough and I won't be playing yard chicken. So thank you so much, Kristen, for letting me knit this. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. So you'll all get to see it once it's finished. So that's essentially what I've been working on. And I haven't had as much time to knit as I would like. You know what? Do we ever have as much time to knit as we would like? That's my question. I would like to knit far more if I could. But life, it happens. So I am hoping in the month of July to have a little bit more time because, well, at the end of June, there was also packing for my daughter. My daughter has gone away to a camp for 1 month. It's an all-girls camp. And we had to kind of go into our savings for this camp, but that's okay. She really wanted to go. She's always gone to this camp, but for much shorter periods of time. And this year she wanted to go for a month, and she insisted that she wanted to go for a month. And so when I went, I registered her for, I was like, are you sure you want to go for a whole month? And she was like, absolutely. And she could not wait to get there. So I took her there on Friday. So this means that for a month, we have one less child. And my son's 14, and he's essentially an independent agent. And hanging out with friends and doing little things here and there. He's going to have a very relaxed summer this year. So July is ending up like a little bit more of a relaxed month with less obligations, less people to take care of. So I'm hoping to be able to knit a lot. So we'll see. So there you go. A couple of things that have come into my life. Some birthday presents that are yarn related that I'll share with you. So the first thing, well, this one is not necessarily a birthday present, but I got this gigantic comb. Bigger than my head. I haven't weighed it, so I don't actually know how much is in here. It's by Briggs & Little, which is a Canadian company. And excuse me, there's going to be some scrunching. It's called a special order. It's 100% pure wool. 1 out of 10 weft spin, if that happens to mean anything to you. It seems to be a little bit of, I'll just throw that on the floor. It seems to be, I would say, a fingering weight, perhaps a sport weight. And I suspect there are about 700 grams in here. No, can't be that much. I don't know, but I think there's a lot. There may even be a sweater's worth in here, or a gigantic shawl, or I don't know what, or more. So we'll see what that becomes. But it was an incredibly reasonably priced cone of yarn that my friend Holly got for me at Wool Time, which is a local wool shop. In there, they have sort of a sale section, so they had these in there, and so she snagged one for me. Thank you, Holly. So it was my birthday month, and I decided that I would treat myself. There are a couple of things that haven't arrived yet, but I found out, thanks to Instagram, that my local yarn store was having a trunk show with Riverside Studios, who is a local dyer. There is her label. She's actually here in the region. I think she lives on the Quebec side. And there was a trunk show, and I've been looking for a brown yarn. I want to make the Lumpy Space by Stephen West, which I think is a bit of a precursor to his eyeball shawl, the concept of it. The idea that you've got a centerpiece and then it kind of goes out like this. So I have some colors already sort of put aside for the idea that I had for it, and but I was sort of missing a brown. So I thought, well, let's go see what there is. And there was this beautiful, beautiful brown. It's coming a little bit across, a little bit more gray. Yeah, I would say it's more like that. And I thought, I'm not sure if that actually fits. I probably need something slightly more red, but I thought, I don't care because it's really beautiful. And then, does she have a name? It's called Dark Chocolate. That's an appropriate name. I eat dark chocolate just about every day. And then I saw this one, which is called Tea Rose, which is coming across a little bit more orangey. Let's see if I can find there. That's probably a little bit more like it. And I just thought these two looked so beautiful together. And I thought, oh, maybe my Lumpy Space idea has just changed. And rather than doing soft colors, maybe it'll be a little bit more fall-like. So this might end up becoming a Lumpy Space. We'll see. This is her 3-ply merino nylon sock yarn, which is an 80-20 merino and nylon. So there you go. And then for my birthday, 3 lovely people gifted me 3 lovely patterns, and all patterns that I actually was hoping to knit sometime in the near future. Now, unfortunately, I had printer issues. I'm just going to grab my laptop so I can show you my aging laptop. But I got 3 gorgeous patterns. I was able to print one, and then suddenly my printer just decided that it didn't want to print anymore. My friend Holly, who I've already mentioned, very kindly gave me this pattern by Heidi Kiermaier, that's right, called Flex. And I actually have yarn that I've even swatched to see what it would knit up like, waiting to become this sweater. This is a sweater that I believe is originally knit out of Quince & Company Kestrel, which is an Aran weight linen, I believe. I have a yarn that is it's an Aran weight, and it's a combination of silk and cotton, and I think there are a couple of other little fibers in there, and it's sort of a pale blue shade. And so I'm going to be making this. The other 2 patterns, my darling Michelle gave me the Authenticity shawl. This is a worsted weight shawl that I've been eyeing for a long time. In fact, I even bought the yarn for it at Rhinebeck, but I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. This is by Soft Sweater. Geez, suddenly I'm not remembering her name. But I believe she's a Canadian designer. And so I had gotten some wonderful sort of a burgundy colored yarn at Rhinebeck last year that is going to become this shawl. So thank you very much, Michelle, my 80s sister. She just commented the other day when I had my birthday on that. And then the last one that was a gift from my friend Kate, who I already mentioned, I believe, a little bit earlier. Yes, because she gave me yarn and now she gave me a pattern. And this is a pattern designed by Elizabeth Smith for Barocco for a poncho. And it's called the Camden's Hill Poncho. And that is not a very good picture of it. It's not really showing what it's supposed to look like. And I also have yarn that I got at Rhinebeck 2 years ago that has been waiting to become a poncho. They're actually 2 skeins of alpaca in 2 slightly different grays. So I'm going to be modifying this a little bit because it's going to be two-toned. But that's what it looks like. So it's just a sort of a loose-fitting poncho, tunic-y type thing. And it's going to be in gray as well. So thank you so much, Kate. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Michelle. It was really nice to receive those things. And that's it. The next time, I've ordered the Len magazine and some yarn from the Woolly Thistle. That was my last birthday gift to myself. So those will be arriving sometime in the next week or so. I look forward to seeing the Len magazine. I didn't buy the first one. There just didn't seem to be that many patterns in it that attracted me, but I have to say that the second one, I'm really looking forward to seeing it because what I've seen so far are really, really attractive. And I think that is it for knitting content completely. So today is Monday, but we have a holiday here today. And it is sunny, as I said at the beginning of the podcast. So I am hoping to spend some time in the garden. Our vegetable plot probably needs some serious weeding. And my backyard here, because my vegetable plot is in a different place, is a complete mess. So I hope to be able to do some of that and getting ready for the week and hanging out and maybe watching a movie tonight. I discovered when I was going through DVDs in the basement that I've got a couple of Hitchcock movies, one being Rear Window, which I haven't seen in a really long time. I think I haven't seen it in well over 20 years, and I thought, oh, this would be a great movie to watch again. I remember really enjoying it. So maybe I'll do that tonight before the week starts again. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to show you today. Thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.